Fine.
All right, so 3 hours sounds good to me. Oh, we're already live. Good to speak. Good to speak to you, man. How are you?
I'm already good. This has been a long day, and I'm sure for you a long night.
Yeah, it's been a lot. I'm very optimistic, even more than when the ceasefire happened. I'll tell you why. The same way I was optimistic when Trump lost his shit and started posting crazy stuff. I'm like, all right, he's about to tackle, because there's no way he means what he says. He's about to tackle. I'm not saying what he said is okay. I know that bothered you a lot. Most people were bothered by it, but I knew, for me, in my mind, I didn't know. I felt like he's gonna tackle. Now, what Israel's doing now seems like the same thing, except it's with violence rather than words. They're going all out on Lebanon, destroy 100 targets, 250 deaths, over 100 targets in 10 minutes. I want you to explain how big that is from a military perspective. But for me, that shows that they're trying to cause as much damage as possible before they also are forced to accept the ceasefire. What do you think?
Yeah, I sort of agree with that. And full disclosure for everybody here, the first time that I had to interact with the Israelis and watch them do a blitz like this was in 1983. Okay. And the same sort of thing, but the Israeli army had bypassed going past the Litani and were pushing to Beirut, to occupy Beirut, which they could blitz things by the hundreds. They could get half the Israeli Air Force in the air and drop bombs on target. So I think that with the pressure coming from the White House, Netanyahu needed to get as many licks in as he could before the ceasefire agreement, which the negotiations are tomorrow, which is technically the official time that, as far as he's concerned, that the Israelis should stop fighting. But now that it's been clarified that Israel is in this, Lebanon is involved in this, what Netanyahu agreed to was a ceasefire. I think you're right. He hit as many Hezbollah-related targets as possible. But his operating philosophy is he doesn't care if it's civilians or not, right? Civilian casualties mean nothing to him. If he can get one guy in a 5-story apartment building and kill 100 other people, he'll do it.
How capable is the Israeli military? Because on one side, we've seen them outperform time and time again, surprise expectations, 12-day war, but more importantly, the Hezbollah war. On the other side, till now, they're struggling with Hezbollah, and they're facing a lot of casualties reportedly when their ground operation in Lebanon. How capable are they? Are they overrated or underrated relative to expectations? Because everyone sees the Israeli military as the most capable relative to its size.
Well, relative to its size, they're completely underrated. I mean, they are very, very good at what they do, principally because, one, their Air Force is world class. All right. It's essentially the U.S. Air Force in a miniature version. It may as well just be a wing of the U.S. Air Force. And they have the capacity, the pilot numbers to keep, flying, missions over and over again. They're flying at a level of intensity that the IAF hasn't seen since the 1973 war. Guys doing 3 and 4 combat missions per day over Iran. I mean, that's crazy. They're running their guys ragged. But the ground forces, let's be honest, every reservist practically in Israel has been cycled through Gaza. They now have paid for whatever their experience is now in blood. If you survived, you're a combat veteran, you know what you're doing. Granted, Gaza is a purely urban environment of destroyed buildings, okay? Lebanon is a green mountainous area with deep valleys, lots of villages, and you can't do the Gaza thing until you get into that village, right? Which is level it, and then fight your way through the rubble. There isn't as extensive a tunnel network up there. There is one, but they also have to fight the land. They will not be able to always be dominant above their enemies at all time, above Hezbollah at all time. And don't forget, Mario, they displaced 1 million civilians. 1 million were forced to move out.
20% of the population, man. Yeah.
And they are looking to annex or create a no-person zone 20% of Lebanon. I mean, it's an enormous
20% of the population. I think 10% of Lebanon, 20% of the population.
Is it 10% of Lebanon from the border to Tyre
To,
Oh,
is
it
that to the
looks
Litani?
a
Yeah,
little bit. Yeah, to the
to the Litani.
Litani, it looks a little.
I
Let's
could be
call
wrong.
it
I could be wrong.
let's call it 15%. It's pretty big piece of Lebanon. And you've got to control it from the sea all the way up to the Shuf, to the mountains overlooking Syria, Damascus. It's going to be an enormous task. They're going to need their 400,000 reservists there, and everybody is going to be stationed up there. So they're good at what they do. They dominate within that region. They are, in the Middle East, they are the best armed force in the Middle East. But if you look quite honestly, they have been at continuous war for 3 years now. 3 years, nonstop.
And it's crazy. In the polls, the appetite for war is still there. That's what's most shocking to me. It's like they've been indoctrinated to a perpetual state of war. What do you make of the developments, though? What do you've agreed that the strike on Lebanon shows that they could be about to accept a ceasefire. In his speech, though, today, Netanyahu said Lebanon is not part of the ceasefire. Our operation against Hezbollah will continue. But obviously, that could mean different things. It could maybe take a pause right now. In the meantime, there's also talks of something historic happening, and that's Lebanon and Israel meeting in the U.S., all while Iran is drawing a line right now. There were reports that Iranian delegation arrived to Pakistan. Now the Iranians are saying, we have not arrived to Pakistan. We're waiting for things to stop in Lebanon. Iran is standing their ground more than ever before. So there's a lot of moving pieces.
Some Iranians have arrived in Pakistan because they were escorted by Pakistani Air Force aircraft from the Iranian airspace into Islamabad. So some VVIP is there that required 6 fighter jets to make sure that the Israelis didn't shoot them down.
People, I saw the video. I actually posted it. Apparently, it's the one from MBS. I posted it too. So I fell for it.
That's MBS.
7 years ago.
Hey, well, great. Let's just debunk these things as we see them. But getting back to the actual feet on the ground, I mean, Israel sees Lebanon, the government of Lebanon, as a army in southern Lebanon in waiting, right? They just see them as a potential large-scale partner against Hezbollah, as opposed to representing all of the Lebanese people, right? So that's who is it? President Hariri. Meeting in Washington is just an extension of what the Israelis want, which is the Lebanese army to mobilize and take on Hezbollah from the north while Israel takes them on from the south. You fought that war for 20 years. That was the occupation of southern Lebanon. It ended up with all those Christians in Israel, having to force to be moved into Israel. It's not an easy problem that can be solved with meetings or force. My fear, I've said it on your show a couple of times, I'm terrified of it, that the strategy Netanyahu may have in mind is the one he had in mind for Iran, which is to force you into civil war, right? So that you're all fighting each other again.
There's people,
and
exactly.
So that,
there's people talking about it in Lebanon. They asked the Shiites. You know Lebanon more than I thought, by the way. You're about to go into it, but they're forcing apparently the Shiites to be kicked out.
I arrived in Lebanon when I was 19.
Jesus.
Okay, I'm 64 now. So spent a lot of time in and around Beirut, and during the Civil War.
That's the 70s. 70s, no? 80s.
Well, no, 80s, 1982.
Hey.
So, spent a lot of time there. And when I was in the military, studied the entire history of the Lebanese Civil War, which, as you recall, was really based on the presence of Palestinian terrorist groups in Sidon and Tyre and all the refugee tents, the PLO, PLFP, DLFP, all of those groups. That's what caused that breakdown. Now, Hezbollah are the Lebanese. So you can't say that there's an outside entity that would cause you to have this cycle of violence when they, in fact, are also a representative part of the people of Lebanon. So by stoking the country into civil war so that you're technically laying on the ground having a heart attack, and therefore you can't fight Israel if you're all fighting each other, there are some old school guys who are my age, maybe older in Israel, who might think, hey, that might be a better option than them organizing together and moving down there. It's cynical, but it's terrible.
On the so how far will Iran go? So I'm a bit split on the future of Lebanon. First, I don't know what Iran's plans are, and what do you think Mushtaba will do? Do you think he'll keep the proxy network, or could a deal include the slow dismantling of the proxy network? Because if he just does dismantle this proxy network, that could be great for Lebanon. Obviously, we're talking more than just Lebanon now, and potentially great for the entire region. If they change, do you think he'll have the same policy as his father? Does a proxy policy work? Or did it backfire in your opinion?
Look, you guys got to get rid of that word proxy. Okay. You got to remove that word. They are not proxies. All right. I have watched this place develop over decades. By the way, when I was there, when I was, in Beirut and when, we arrived there, full disclosure, fun story. I arrived on 17 April 1983, my first full year deployment in Beirut, off Beirut. 19 April 1983, the U.S. Embassy was blown up by a suicide bomber, right? Killed 68 people. The entire building collapsed. Killed all CIA officers in the country. All
Who was
right?
it?
All
That's not, you're not
9
talking.
of
That
them.
was a,
That was
that's not the Hezbollah
1983.
operation.
It was the beginnings. Back then, it wasn't called Hezbollah, right? It actually was an organization with no name. Everyone thought it was Amal, right? Al-Murabatun al-Lubnan. Amal militia. Everyone's like, oh,
You know
it's
your shit,
Amal.
man. You know your shit. Amal
Dude, I
Berry.
fought them. And so, but what it really was Iranian intelligence forming Hezbollah, and they didn't have a name at that time. So everybody was pointing around. I got to tell you, when that embassy got blown up, killed all of those Lebanese staff, killed all of the American embassy staff. The thing that they said about the suicide bombing, when they saw the car drive up and blow up, they said, oh, it was a guy who probably lost his wife during the Civil War and just wanted revenge, right? For 4 months, we believed that until what would become Hezbollah started growing. And we saw the IRGC and them out in the Bekaa Valley creating little safe houses, creating little bases, right? And they were being fronted by Amal. Okay, but they weren't Amal at all. Amal was just another one of the, the warring faction families of Beirut, and so they were growing as a combat organization before they even showed up. Their first operation, I'm going to tell you, their first operation was actually when they blew up the Israeli headquarters in Tyre in 1982. And everybody thought that was a fluke suicide bombing also. We had never seen suicide bombing in that part of the world. This was all Vivak, right? What formerly was known as Iranian intelligence. Savak, under the CIA, transformed into Vivak. And that's where the IRGC in 1979 said, listen, we know all you guys are formerly CIA-trained spies and experts. We're not going to kill you. We're going to give you your jobs. We're going to raise your salary. You work for us now.
The guys from the Shah.
The guys from the Shah era, and they were the ones who were training all of the people that would become the world of suicide bombing, kidnapping, assassination.
Holy shit.
Bring in Imad Mughaniya. All these guys were Iranian intelligence trained. Now, why am I giving you this story? Because I said remove the word proxy. All right. If there's one thing I learned in Beirut, in all the gun battles we had with those guys, bombardments, the suicide bombing of the American embassy, the Marine barracks bombing, the second American embassy, the French headquarters, the Israeli headquarters in Tyre again. We figured out that this is not about me puppet stringing you. This is deeply held co-religionist. So you should replace the word proxy with co-religionist. They are never going to give up their co-religionists. They are never going to give up these Shia Muslims who believe in the primacy of Caliph Ali, Hussein, Hassan, the blood that's shed every Ashura, cutting their heads, beating themselves with whips, doing the whole, ritualistic pain. I have been to the shrine of Ali, Imam Hussein, and Hassan. These people deeply believe this. whether they're in Yemen, whether they're in Bahrain, whether they're in Kuwait, whether they're in Iran. So they will never give up the proxy support system, because it would be like a Lebanese Christian, right, who lives in the Corniche saying, well, screw everybody in Junia. You're not going to do that. You're all the same.
They
You
can,
just live geographically apart.
but there's a difference between um, being linked by religion and acting against the interests of your country on behalf of Iran. So I think Hezbollah has
Oh,
both. My position is they have both. They have interests, especially in Nasrallah. Nasrallah is always balancing it as well as he can. The interest of his own
okay.
country, but he also had to do what Iran asked, not everything that Iran asked, but he had to also support Iran or follow some of their orders or requests, whatever you want to call them, because they're the ones that funded
Sure.
them. You said to me they founded them early on, they helped them establish Hezbollah,
Yes,
and their
absolutely.
involvement over time got more. They're the ones that are armed Hezbollah, support. They're now including them in the ceasefires. That proves they're a proxy. Now, I could
Yeah.
choose another word, but I'm
I
saying both
mean,
could be true.
yeah. But Iran doesn't view them as a proxy. Iran views them as co-religionists who need their material and terrorist and money support so that that branch of Shia Islam that has been around since the 7th century can persist and act as, now here's where you can say act as a proxy, but act as substitutes on the line of confrontation with Israel. That's all they have ever been really interested in.
I,
You're the people who get the licks in against the Jews for us, direct combat, right?
I
There
have a
is
hard
not,
question for you.
until recently, I'm just saying real quick,
Sorry,
until
no, go ahead, go
recently,
ahead.
there's never been an Israeli in direct ground combat with an Iranian in Iran until right last year, when they did the 12-day war, and maybe a little bit of this war, right, with the Mossad guys and their paramilitaries in Iran launching drones and shooting each other. But Hezbollah has been at it since 1982. So from the look at it as if you're sitting in Tehran and looking west, right? You look at this arc over Syria and Lebanon into southern Lebanon, and you view those as your co-religionists who need your help, right? Whether that's sending them anti-ship missiles, which they claim to have launched the other day, or going to Karbala and Qum and having them represented in the Shia Council, because you all believe deeply in your heart the same religion. And I think it's a mistake for Westerners to stop viewing these people as Muslims that support Muslims in other part of their world. And don't forget, Shia is only 15% of Islam. They don't represent the other 85%. They're completely different confession-ish. But they all
Mm.
go to Mecca. They all go on Hajj. But
I have
Iran
I have
sees that as supporting their cousins, hillbilly
by the
cousins.
way, if you want to ask anyone asking why is Israel still going so far and threatening the entire ceasefire to destroy Hezbollah? Well, if you take out October 7th, Hezbollah has killed more Israelis than any other group or country ever. After
Absolutely.
October 7th, Hamas is now number one. I have a question though for you. If Hezbollah lays their arms, because there's talks now about Lebanon and Israel normalizing relations. Two things. First, would Iran allow it? And number two, what would Israel do? The optimistic person like myself would say they'd pull out of the south and normalize, like what they did with Egypt and Sinai. The pessimistic person, and they have a very valid point nonetheless,
Mhm.
is
Mhm.
they would annex South Lebanon.
Well, I mean, I would have to see a scenario. I would have to see a political scenario where Hezbollah no longer see themselves as a victim minority in Lebanon that can trust everyone around them, whether it's Druze, whether it's Christian, whether it's secular, whether it's Palestinians, or whether it's Israelis, right? You would have to have a transformation within the mindset, because they're sort of, they'll never admit this, right? But they're sort of like the Israelis, right? They enjoy their victimhood. And they use that
Who
to Hezbollah,
Hezbollah?
right? Hezbollah enjoy it. They're getting pummeled. They're the guys who were on the line of confrontation. They lost all their men. They fought the Israelis, and none of you help us. All of you are on their side. You've got America behind you. blah 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 blah. It's sort of, it's sort of like Israel in terms of they're constantly using their victimhood as a motivator for them to continue the struggle, the armed struggle, right? I mean, these guys, I've got one of those sweaters too. Okay, there's a group that sells a T-shirt that says University of Southern Lebanon, right? Madrasato Mukawama, right? The school of resistance. And they're talking about this university. It's not about anything other than continuing the armed struggle to maintain the continuity of their community, which Israel, I'd be quite frank with you, I think Israel has an existentialist view towards them and thinks maybe we could do the Hamas, do the Gaza thing to them, only on a bigger, broader scale.
That's wild.
Well, when you
Do you think
consider
how
they
far?
displaced 1 million people, it ain't wild. It's happening.
How far do you think Netanyahu will go in continuing to strike Hezbollah? Could he sabotage the ceasefire? Not now, but I'm saying over the next few months, even now.
Yeah. I think that he would sabotage the ceasefire or adhere to it or break it at a moment of his benefit, right? If he feels that the Strait of Hormuz is stabilized, Iran is stabilized, the United States is happy, aircraft carrier strike groups start withdrawing, he could say, I'm going back into Lebanon. We're going to finish Lebanon, and this is a wholly separate war,
But
right? Has
Iran, would
nothing to do
Iran
with
let him?
ceasefire.
Iran is look how but look how emboldened Iran is. I don't think Iran would hold back like they did before. Iran might just let loose again because they know Trump would not be dragged in. They know Israel's card that, hey, we're gonna get the US involved. That card is gone now.
There would have to be a gap here to where U.S. forces are moved, where maybe we even see some changing in defense alliances in the Gulf states, because the Gulf states definitely don't want to get hit anymore. They don't want to get hit anymore. Set aside that little thing with the Emirates and Levant Island the other day. I don't know what went on with that,
I really
but they
don't
don't
think
want to
so.
get hit.
Yeah,
Yeah, you don't think it was them?
I don't know. I really don't know. Actually, I don't have any
Okay.
information one way or another.
Let me
It's
tell you,
really tricky.
could have
But
been could have been the Israelis. they got
what do
they
you
got
think? Yeah,
mirages in inventory.
there's hold on. There's strikes. Just 2 seconds. I don't want to digress too much, but there was strikes today on the Gulf countries. Malcolm, we didn't talk about it.
On
Who's
Kuwait,
behind those?
right?
Kuwait, no,
That's
Kuwait.
Hashid
Apparently,
Shabi.
Kuwait, UAE, and Saudi. All three of
Bahrain.
them. No, sorry, Bahrain. Bahrain.
Wait,
You're right. Sorry,
Bahrain. Were they
and
drones?
UAE
I think they were drones.
drones.
I
Yeah,
think they were
drone
drones.
missiles.
Yeah, well,
Very
that
little.
that could be the Heshid Shabi. And let me tell you something about drones. Okay, a lot of people, because I'm the kind of guy I watch the little minutia that indicates big strategic shifts. Do you remember 3 years ago when they were fighting the Houthis and a drone hit Abu Dhabi airport that was fired from Yemen? Came in right behind you. No one saw it. Hit the Terminal 1, some loading vehicles. And everybody's like, what? The Yemenis can do that? Yes, they can do that.
I
So
know
we'll
that. I
find
remember the
out where
strike
these.
on Saudi Aramco. That was a few years
Oh
ago.
yeah. Well, that happens all the time. So, but I meant that one from Yemen to the UAE shocked everybody because they didn't think that one, they would do it. Two, the Emirates was involved down in South Yemen, and they didn't think that they would come and touch their capital's airport. They were aiming for Royal Flight. They weren't aiming for Terminal 1. So, they were hoping to blow up, one of the sheikh's aircraft. But the point is, we keep thinking that that because a verbal agreement has happened, that other forces like that could have been Yemen, could have been the Hashid Shabi. No one ever noticed it. Could be a Iranian who lost his wife. Like I said a little earlier, right? I'm a widow. I understand the strength of grief, and it could be that trickle effect as the last shots
The
are going
mosaic
out.
structure, exactly.
Right. But prior to that, there were 0 ballistic missiles fired. For the
Yes.
first time since 28 February, 0 left Iran, which means they have control of their aerospace forces. But those drones are one truck. It's one truck with 7 drones. They could have said, fuck that shit. Yeah, I'm putting these out and then I'll go have a coffee.
How hurt is the Iranian military? We don't obviously have actual data, but from what you're seeing and the information you've seen come out and the way they act, I think it says a lot.
Two forces. Artesh, which is the regular conventional armed forces, their military hardware and bases have been destroyed. Now, I don't know if they destroyed every tank, every armored personnel carrier. I'm sure many of our strikes, we're great at blowing up conventional stuff. Going to an army base and destroying all the warehouses, all the ammunition dumps, right? Making sure that there's no bullets, there's no bombs, artillery shells from 1974 that we sold to them, or the bunkers with the IHawk missiles that Oliver North and Ronald Reagan got the Israelis to give to them. All that's gone now. Okay. Ships, little, missile boats. That's the easy stuff. But that was never Iran's greatest strength.
Yeah.
Iran's strength was asymmetric. Right now, the Strait of Hormuz is being closed not because there are mines or missiles there. They attacked 12 ships the entire length of this war on both sides of the SOH, right? They destroyed 2 of them. There are others can be salvaged. But it's the threat of them doing something that made the oil insurance company say nobody goes through. UK Maritime Trade Office today said their registry for the SOH is registered at critical. And if you don't go through the IRGC Easy Pass, right? I call it the multi-pass. The IRGC toll booth up there near Larak Kishem Island, you are not moving, right? And I love that today the Iranians did 2 things. One, they put out a NOTAM, a notice to all mariners, that the main SOH traffic separation scheme, the one that's been used forever, right? Since antiquity, they have declared that as dangerous, which is a hint that maybe we mined it, maybe we didn't, but they put a box around that. Then they put out a message showing there is a new traffic separation scheme going up. It's going to go under Larak Island and over, and the small boats will meet you and check your Easy Pass, right? And then raise the toll booth. And coming in, you got to go up and over Hormuz, Larak Island, and be inspected to make sure you're bringing nothing for the American military. They announced today that's the new traffic separation scheme.
That's
and
crazy.
That'll be, and if it's oil, if it's a regular container ship, it's $2 million. If it's oil, it's $1 per barrel of oil that you're carrying. Most ships carry about 1 million barrels of oil. So they've essentially given an oil discount to everybody going out. But they're going to make bank. They're going to make the Omanis said they don't want half the money now, right? The Iranians are going to be like, okay, I'll keep the money. That's $160 billion a year.
Why would the Omanis say no?
Billion.
Why would the
Omanis don't want to? They don't want to look like they're part of a shakedown, but it's straight up shakedown. Now, even when I was a young guy in my 20s fighting through the Strait of Hormuz, we have never had a lack of vessels going through the Strait of Hormuz. Tankers would always take risk, come shooting through, chase through. When the U.S. Navy was there or not there, the Iranians would come up and harass this boat or that boat. There was never zero tankerage until March 1st of this year. Thank you, Donald Trump. For the first time in history, he closed the SOH, and now he gave operational control of the SOH to the Iranians.
SOH is in Strait of Hormuz.
Strait of Hormuz, yeah.
What a world we live in. This is literally the biggest mafia shakedown that we've ever seen.
Yeah, but here's the
generations.
Part, Mario. Trump yesterday goes, I think that we can do a cost sharing on it. I think that he was like, oh, I think I should get a taste of that toll booth money. Right?
I saw that
was
yeah.
Donald Trump yesterday. And today, in his moment of senility, he's like, what are you talking about? They're charging tolls on the Strait of Hormuz. This is the first time he ever heard that. Remember what I said? This man is senile. He has mental illness posing as foreign policy. He can't remember from one minute to the next what he said.
What do you make of the whole Lebanon wasn't part of it, Lebanon was part of it saga? It looks to me like Netanyahu called him and said, "Hey, take Lebanon out," and he's like, "I'll try," and then they walked back
Yeah,
their comments. That's the only
it's
explanation I have.
really fun. It's really funny how subservient Donald Trump is to Netanyahu. It's almost like he's like a Putin mini-me clone. And you know how Trump is just madly in love with Putin. He'll do anything for Putin. He screwed over Ukraine. He's giving them $8 billion a day now, raising the sanctions on them. But Netanyahu, is, how can I put it? The best thing to say is that he's big dicking it around Trump, and Trump is just jealous of the size. Israel is a fighting nation, and I think Trump wishes we were more like them in that respect. I mean, when they were fighting in Gaza, the first thing Trump saw in Gaza was, oh my God, that's 25 kilometers of beachfront. Okay. That's crazy talk. But it takes a person who Netanyahu knows precisely how stupid Trump is. Trump is a very ignorant man. And I think that Netanyahu and his advocates play Trump in that respect. And, whereas Trump makes a decision, Netanyahu will come back a couple of days and go, well, Donald, that makes you look like a loser. And, and we've got to fight this war in Lebanon. That should be separate. And if you agree with the Iranians on this, then you're working in Iran's interest. And Trump will be like, no, but we've got to wait a few minutes. Let's see what JD does. I suspect that as soon as they start meeting tomorrow and they come out and they make their statement, the Israelis are going to be bombarding Beirut like they hit the other day. I couldn't believe some of the bombardment that I saw. All right.
We haven't talked about it. What do you make of it?
Some of those attacks were just straight up murder. And I've said the same thing about Gaza. I'm a war fighter. I'm a warrior for the intelligence community of the United States. I believe in these cultures, right? I believe that people have a right to exist. And I believe that war fighters need to fight with honor and ethics. Well, with Donald Trump, Israel's allowed to do anything they want. There was no pressure whatsoever. Joe Biden put pressure on him. Kamala Harris put pressure on them. You got to, it's like you're
they flattened Gaza. But they flattened Gaza.
Whoa. Joe Biden didn't flatten Gaza. Benjamin Netanyahu flattened Gaza. Okay.
Under Joe Biden's presidency.
But Joe Biden tried all the traditional levers. Look, I learned this in 1983. Okay, when one time we were sitting down there off of just south of Beirut, it'll come to me in a minute where we were, and there was an Israeli airstrip down there, and the Israelis C-130s would fly over, and they were really cautious about being shot at by surface-to-air missiles. And my ship was sitting about 3 kilometers off from that airstrip. And you know what they did? They flew over us and fired off all their flares, knowing that a heat-seeking missile will come and hit our warship. Right? Israel looks out for number one. They don't respond to anybody. They don't answer to anybody. So for all of the levers that Joe Biden pushed, they were going to do what they were going to do, right? Netanyahu was going to do what Netanyahu was going to do, right? But he did have a lot of restraints. This is unrestrained crazy town, right? You're not trying to stop a humanitarian catastrophe in Gaza. You're laying out landscape plans to ethnically cleanse 2.2 million people and build in golf courses. That's the difference between Joe Biden and Donald Trump. Joe Biden was never going to ethnically cleanse those people and kill them and starve them. That's Netanyahu's game. Now Trump is a junior partner in all of this.
You don't see it changing?
What? What changing?
I see the whole thing, the whole calculus. The whole calculus, man. I feel like this war could change everything. We're talking about normalizations of relations between the Lebanon war was one. The new reality with Iran is a second. I think Israel's approval ratings have tanked since October 7th, and now they've reached, especially in the US after this war, people are just
They're
pissed.
horrible in the US.
Exactly. But that's what I mean. I think everything is pointing to a drastic change in US foreign policy against Israel, in terms of Israel. A change in what's happening in the Lebanon war.
That's not going to change. The American people have changed. Trump is never going to change. All right. He sees the Israelis as his chosen people, right? Because he thinks of himself as God. And the evangelicals support him 5,000% because they support Israel 5,000% because they think in the book of Revelations at the end of time, Israel will be destroyed and Jesus will come back. Go figure, right? That's very cynical. But there will
But the
not be an
polls,
Abraham's
I think
Accord.
the polls matter more. I think the polls, Trump watches the polls and economy. They're the two most important things for Trump, in my opinion. If the polls
But
point to something being
yeah.
bad, but the economy points to something being bad, he would go against it,
I don't know.
like he
I
did
don't.
with
I
the
don't
Iran
think
war.
so. Not on the Israel thing. He views dictators and strongmen as his only allies. Netanyahu is in. I wrote a book back in 2018 called "The Plot to Destroy Democracy," and I coined the term. Everybody used axis of evil and all these things. I coined the term axis of autocrats, and that the world was shifting with the rich, the uber rich, right? The ultra rich, the oligarchy was shifting the world from democracy to oligarchy. And that autocrats, that phrase we use in basketball, game knows game, right? Trump loves Putin because he has ultimate control of money and people. Loves Kim Jong Un because they all stand up and simultaneously clap for him like a bunch of clowns. And he can do anything, say anything, and get away with it. Bestie. Same thing with Xi Jinping, right? When Xi Jinping became prime minister for life, president for life of China, Trump sent him a warm congratulations and said, essentially, I wish I could become a person like that. He loves Erdogan. He loves Orban in Hungary. He loves all of the autocrats. And Netanyahu is the Israeli autocrat, right? Was on trial. Trump writing the Supreme Court of Israel last year saying, I think you should pardon Benjamin Netanyahu of all of his crimes. Essentially, as president of the United States, asking the Israeli judiciary to act as his surrogate to give Netanyahu an American president pardon. You got to be drinking a lot of Kool-Aid or taking a lot of Adderall and crack for that to happen. I mean, Israel has laws, and the bugaboo of Netanyahu has been the laws in the judiciary there. To try to bigfoot it in there and say America says, that's autocrat thinking. And there are a lot of
But
people, the
but
opposition in Israel, view
I don't know.
Netanyahu as an autocrat, but
But
he's the
he's
wartime
democratically elected.
commander.
But he's democratically elected as well. He's formed a coalition. Israel has
Sure,
a strong
but
democracy. Orban is
but
democratically
the
elected. He's
minute
even losing in the polls now. Maloney's democratically elected. Bukele, he loves Bukele. If anything,
but the minute
Khamenei is
those
an
wars
autocrat,
stop,
and he killed him.
sure, but the minute those wars stop, people stop worrying and start voting, right? So all I'm saying is those people, that is the axis of autocrats in this world. And if you look behind all of them, it's all about ginormous amounts of money. Now, with regard to Iran, I view Lebanon separate from Iran because I think Netanyahu's going to just flip us all the birds and do whatever he wants. Honestly.
Oh.
And I think the best thing he could have is the ability to destabilize Iran. I think he absolutely wants Iran to go into full-scale civil war because now Israel will never have to worry about them as an organized government again, right? If they're all shooting each other. Same thing with Lebanon. So, but here's my real issue. And I wrote about this today. Um, in 7 days, the U.S. warships, all those warships will be coming together, and all the amphibious transports and all of the U.S. forces will still be in place. But Iran is now charging and using Easy Pass, right? Iranian Revolutionary Guard Pass. Um, Trump is going to, he's going to be told by guys like Lindsey Graham and Pete Hegseth and Republican senators and congressmen, you have to challenge Iran's supremacy to access to the Strait of Hormuz. And I have done this, I can't tell you, maybe 20 times in my Navy career. We carry out these provocative operations we refer to as FON ops, FON, freedom of navigation. And what we do is we take a task force in, ready to gun, and we challenge that navigation. You might remember the line of death off of Libya, the Gulf of Sidra. I belong to what jokingly we call the Gulf of Sidra Yacht Club, and we sank all the Libyan ships. We were like, we're going to navigate down there. And when we got down there and the Libyans fired missiles at us, we slaughtered them. Trump is going to be forced to do this. And he's going to say, our warships are going to Bahrain or going into the Gulf right now. And he's going to say, we're sending in 4 guided missile destroyers in a little diamond pattern, ready to fight in any direction, along with our amphibious transports or something. And we will say, we have a right to freedom of navigation. And the Iranians are going to say, no, multi-pass. And Trump's going to force them through. And the battle we didn't have is going to happen. And the war is going to start again. Because the Iranians can't let them through. Right? It will now challenge their dominance for the Strait of Hormuz. Or the Iranians will spend the next 2 weeks mining the ever-living fuck out of the 2 old traffic patterns.
After what the Strait did to the global economy, you really think they would poke that hornet's nest again?
Who, Trump? Trump, someone's going to talk him up to that. Because otherwise, the U.S. Navy will never again enter the Persian Gulf. There's going to be this confrontation will occur. It must occur. Now, the Joint Chiefs of Staff aren't going to do it. They're going to say, Mr. President, we require freedom of navigation on all routes throughout the world. That's it. It's up to Trump, his national, J.D. Vance and Marco Rubio, but they would have to know the Iran war will restart that minute. And the Strait of Hormuz will close for the next 6 months. Right? It'll absolutely close at that point because don't forget, the insurance companies closed the Strait of Hormuz. No insurance company will allow a ship to move when anti-ship missiles, surface-to-air missiles are now flying in the traffic separation scheme. Right? Full-scale naval battle is taking place.
What happens to the American bases in the region?
I think Al-Udeid, I think U.S. Central Command Forward is going to be quietly closed. I'm pretty sure the Qataris are going to say, hey, you know what? We have proven we can handle ballistic missile defense. Now that we get these Ukrainian interceptors, we can start handling drone defense. We'll get more anti-aircraft guns. But why are you getting hit? Because of that giant effing base over there. So what I suspect the Qataris will say quietly is to the public, the base was badly damaged. In agreement with the United States will be moving U.S. Central Command to Uvda Air Base in eastern Israel, which was, until this war, an giant abandoned air base that the Israelis used only for fire.
Israel made an offer, as you know, throughout the war for the U.S. to move their bases there.
And
they also offered for the pipelines to go.
Pipelines. That's crazy.
Trump just put. So go ahead about the pipelines before I tell you what Trump posted. What do you think of the pipelines?
Any pipeline, anyone opens their mouth with a pipeline is going to eat a suicide bomber. You're going to jumpstart ISIS and Al Qaeda, the Arabian Peninsula, right? Oh yeah, same thing with the Abraham Accords. I think the Abraham Accords are dead. I think they're dead. No one is going to now. If you sign on to the Abraham Accords, you're a junior partner to Benjamin Netanyahu.
Oh, things are going to change in so many ways.
I suspect the GCC will defend themselves now. They can do
and
it.
They'll get closer
now,
and they'll get closer to the UAE as well, to Iran as well. Correct?
Yeah, I think with Iran they will take a approach to them that the bully needs to be reasoned with. They will take what I lovingly call on this channel camel souk politics. You hate each other, you're competitors, you need to sell camels, he needs to sell camels, my camels are prettier, your camels are less pretty, my camels can go 1,000 miles, blah, blah, blah. But they are all in the same souk, right? They won't sell out the whole camel souk for outsiders, right? They'll screw the outsiders, they'll take their money. But I think they'll have to come to a rapprochement with Iran that's like, hey, listen, we're not going to be chucking ballistic missiles at each other, Roger. And the Iranians were like, yeah, sure. But, I often say...
They'll be rearming in the meantime.
Of course, but the confrontation between Iran and Saudi Arabia goes back to 658, right? Khalifa Ali and the end of the first Islamic Civil War, the first Islamic fitna. That's where all this animosity began. That's why you got 15% of Islam and 85% of Islam split.
15 is Shiites, 85 is the Sunni. Last question is just quick reaction to Trump's post. Iran just
what
posted
did he
now.
Post?
Iran.
What did he post?
Iran is doing it. Iran is doing a very poor job, dishonorable, some would say, of allowing oil to go through the Strait of Hormuz. That is not the agreement we have. I don't get it. Iran, okay. There's a poor job of allowing oil. I got it. No, that's it. Iran is doing a very poor job, dishonorable would say, of allowing oil to go through the Strait of Hormuz. I think he means the poor job is not them allowing the oil to go through. The poor job is not, they're doing a poor job of how the oil is going through. Otherwise, do you know what I mean? That's what makes sense.
15 ships went out in the last 2 days through Easy Pass, through the Iranian IRGC multipass toll booth, right? 0 were authorized to transit today. 0. Okay.
Hezbollah, yeah.
It's like Trump is getting this news as it trickled down the mountain days later, and he's like, well, they're doing a poor job of letting the oil through.
Oh, he said before it, he said there's context. There's context. He said before it, there are reports that Iran is charging fees to tankers going through the Hormuz Strait. They better not be, and if they are, they better stop now. But didn't he say, he said yesterday, he said he wants a piece of it.
To do a profit sharing scheme. This is what I'm talking about. It's like he wakes up, changes his diaper or whatever, wakes up and goes, after him going, oh, yeah, we can get a taste of that. I would want at least 25% of that. And then somebody goes, Mr. President, they're charging $2 million. 2 days ago, he thought that was a reasonable amount of money. And then somebody said, yeah, in February 27th, Mr. President, they were charging $0. And now we've got to pay $2 million. But you know what they're going to do? They're going to say U.S. warships not allowed, not authorized. And this is where the new confrontation will come in. Because J.D.
Unless
Vance
they give him a
that.
piece. Unless they give him, Malcolm, they give him a piece. Couldn't that be the solution?
Could you imagine? And don't forget, today the IRGC announced that they are willing to take stablecoin, right? Which is world dollar media. They are taking Trump coin. Now, I made that up as a joke on our IRGC multipass about 3 weeks ago, and I put up in the corner, we accept Trump coin. They're accepting Trump coin. No. You can't make this stupid story up. Chinese yuan or Bitcoin using stablecoin and Trump coin. So
now, if they use stablecoin, to be clear, if they use stablecoin, 99% of the stablecoin market is backed by US dollars. If they use it, so stablecoin has to be backed to the dollar. So it's a good thing for the US.
It's shukran. I don't. The funny thing is, thank you, Donald Trump. Now we're making money with no sanctions. Now we're making money off the toll booth, and now we're making bank on your coin backed up by your treasury, right? Halas, this is profit sharing. We appreciate it. I swear to God, the negotiator was Borat. It had to be Sacha Baron Cohen, who's been speaking to Trump for the last 4 weeks, and Trump thought he was talking to the Iranians. It has to be.
I'm just checking the whole stable coins, because I saw the stable coins reports, but that would be great for crypto. I'm in crypto, so that's great news. Yes, Iran has set a toll booth. They explicitly accept payments in US dollar pegged stable coins. So it is true. Or
I never lie.
Alongside Chinese yuan and sometimes Bitcoin.
Yes. Yeah. And you know what? They're going to be making bank. They're going to be making bank. This is the most hilarious story. First off, because so much blood, sweat, tears, and people's lives have been shed for this, and Trump is just outplayed left and right. And the worst part is the Lego videos are coming out to be true every time. The way that they characterize him as sweating bullets and seeing the economies crash. And it's horrible. It's horrible that people have lost their lives over this. Trillions of market capitalization is in the Gulf states. That's why they will be cutting their own unilateral defense deals, like France with United Arab Emirates. As soon as they got attacked, French Rafales were flying in there and doing combat missions, right? So they're going to be doing that with the British. They're going to be doing that with others. But I think the United States will be leaving Kuwait in a large way. They're out of Bahrain. That base is leveled. If the Bahrainis were smart, they would turn that into, the new GCC Defense Force headquarters. Which, if the Saudis were smart, they would bring that out to Riyadh or somewhere else and create GCC was sort of like that, but a real defense alliance where they buy all interceptors, they integrate, no Americans, so that there's no reason to have ballistic missiles dropped on their heads. But they know how to defend themselves now. Their Patriot batteries are blooded. They've got experience. And they've got the Ukrainians training them, right? Because the Saudis were shooting 3 interceptors for every freaking drone. The Ukrainians are like, what are you doing? No, get a 50 caliber machine gun and shoot it down.
Yeah.
Why are you using $6 million worth of interceptors, right? But you know how Saudis are. They'd rather crash a Lamborghini than to look bad in a Corolla, right?
Malcolm, always a pleasure, man. Thank you so much for doing this again, and I'm sure I'll see you again. I'm glad you're enjoying the posts by Trump.
Look, man, we've got to get as much humanity and pleasure and humor out of this as we can, because it is an absolute catastrophe. And, Iran has beat us on this one. The United States has lost this war. I'm going to say that straight up to all of you. We got nothing out of this. Nothing other than the demonstration of dropping a shitload of bombs. That's it. By the way, Pete Hegseth's comment, on to our next conquest, right? He said that to the armed forces. What did they conquer? They conquered the Krispy Kreme, Costa Coffee down there, Dhofar Air Base. They conquered, I don't know. But they conquered nothing in this war. We conquered nothing. We have not met any of our objectives. That is a loss.
I agree. Malcolm, thank you so much, sir.
Take care, man. We'll see you.